All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Maya Nottage. I am the Regional Marketing Manager for Global Ports Holding for the Americas, and it is a pleasure to have so many of you on the webinar with us today. Our topic today, Choose to Challenge, Increasing Opportunities for Women in Cruise Tourism, is certainly a very timely one. And we have an outstanding panel of experts here today to ensure that our discussion is exciting, informative, and insightful. So without further ado, let's get started. I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Mora Jr. Mr. Mora Jr. is the Regional Director for Global Ports Holding for the Americas and the CEO of Nassau Cruise Port Limited to bring opening remarks. Mike?
Well, thank you, Maya, and good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to those of you that are in a much different time zone. As the Regional Director of the Americas for Global Ports Holding, I am pleased to welcome everyone to today's important event. This webinar is our first joint event between Nassau Cruise Port and Antigua Cruise Port. So we're happy to mark this occasion by celebrating a day as special as International Women's Day. Global Ports Holding is an equal opportunity employer, and we believe in the advancement and empowerment of men and women. As a result, our goal is always to hire the best candidate for the job. That said, we believe that a workplace which resembles our community best serves our community. A diverse work family which leverages both common and unique experience has strong roots, paving the way for individual and commercial success. While we did not specifically plan to engage a certain ratio of men to women in Antigua or in Nassau, it just so happens that many of the very qualified, talented team members of both countries are women. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge them now. In Nassau, we have Ms. Catherine Pinder, our Head of Finance. We have Maya Nottage, who you've met, Regional Marketing Manager. We have Jade Evans, our Assistant Operations Manager. We have Amanda Friedman, our Communications Manager. We have Shamisa Hepburn and Nakia Forbes, Security Supervisors. We have Peaches Saunders, our Accountant. We have Deshanti Thompson, our in-house Health and Safety Expert. And we are very blessed to have on board Mrs. Joy Jibril, Director General of the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, and Mrs. Ajigal Bensel, Vice Chair of our board. So we have two very capable, proven women that sit on our board, giving us guidance and direction. In Antigua, we have a 50-50 split of men and women on our team, with many key leadership roles also filled by women, including the very capable Donna Regis Prosper, our General Manager, Nadasta Hurst, our Head of Finance, Cynthia Brown, Senior Accountant, Orenzel Jacobs Henry, Facility Manager, Diane Richards, Custodian Supervisor, and Janice Constant, Security Supervisor. I believe the presence of these women in every aspect of the cruise port business speaks volumes about the advancements being made. I would like to use this opportunity to say thank you. I am sincerely grateful to each of these dynamic ladies who without question have made our company a much better company. We, however, still have work to do. Today, there are very capable and qualified women employed in other sectors and unfortunately unemployed with little knowledge of the cruise sector. This year, our Antigua team completed the construction of a new cruise berth, and later this year, the Nassau team will complete construction of 2 new cruise berths. Additionally, Nassau will break ground on the $100 million upland construction. As we complete these projects, we will expand our messaging to introduce the public to the various aspects of the cruise and tourism sector with the objective of attracting fresh and new experiences and perspectives. As I said earlier, a workplace which resembles our community best serves our community. We are committed to ensuring that women receive as much opportunity as men in terms of industry education and career opportunities. Mutual respect, empowerment, and the development of equal opportunities are key values of our brand. We believe that these are among the many qualities that will drive the future success of our industry and that of Global Ports Holding throughout the region. I'm proud to be a part of a team that supports and encourages the advancement of women and the equal distribution of opportunity throughout our industry. The future of our industry is very bright, And with all the talented people on board, we have so much to look forward to. Thank you so much, and I look forward to a great webinar.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'd like to introduce now our moderator for today. She has been employed by the government of Antigua and Barbuda for the past 21 years. She was formerly an IT instructor at the Youth Skills Training Center and a news anchor at the Antigua and Barbuda Broadcasting Service. She currently holds the position of Communications Officer for the Ministry of Tourism of Antigua and Barbuda. This position has given her intricate insight into every facet of the industry, and she has formulated messaging surrounding the government's planning and policies for national tourism for the past 17 years. A holder of a master's degree in communications, I'm very proud and happy to introduce our host for today, Ms. T. Samoya Kirby. Samoya, take it away.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, depending on what side of the world you're in. I am Samoya Kirby, and I'd like to say a special thank you to Maya for that edification. We are delighted to join you today because, of course, we're still celebrating International Women's Day. So we're taking it as a week-long celebration. And today, of course, we will be focusing on ways to amplify the achievements of women in the cruise and tourism sectors. We will also examine the future of the cruise industry from various perspectives and discuss how the advancement of women in this field will support the growth of the industry. So, of course, we're ready to kickstart this morning's presentations. And of course, we will be taking you on to Mrs. Diana Block Garcia from Virgin Cruises, who will share with us how they've managed during the COVID-19 crisis, as well as how women on their team have contributed to the process, as well as brand plans for the resumption of sailing. But let me tell you a bit about Diana before she takes over. So Diana Block Garcia joined Virgin Voyages, in November of 2017, overseeing pricing and proposition. Her current gig as Senior Vice President of Revenue, Sales, and Itinerary for Virgin Voyages expands her role to oversee engaging partners in trade sales and the creation of epic itineraries and land experiences. Diana has spent 18 years in the cruise industry, previously working at the Royal Caribbean Group in executive roles in revenue management, itinerary planning, new building, hotel finance, and air and sea. Prior to entering the cruise industry, Diana held management positions with American Airlines in finance, revenue management, and marketing. She is a native New Yorker and holds an undergraduate degree in economics and psychology from Emory University and an MBA from Duke University. She's a travel enthusiast and lives in Aventura, Florida with her husband. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Diana Block Garcia, Senior Vice President of Revenue, Sales, and Itinerary for Virgin Voyages. Good morning, Diana.
Good morning, and thank you, Samoya. That was quite the generous introduction. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here, and I feel honored to be a part of this event today. So thank you all for that. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about Virgin Voyages, and also about how women play a role in our company. So we're ready to get started. So when Richard Branson set out to start a cruise line, he did it the way he has approached all of his businesses in the past. And he does that with the goal to change business for good. His approach is to maintain the best part of any industry that he enters and remove the pain points and then add a little bit more to create value for the customer. And that leads us to our brand purpose, which is an epic sea change for all. And by all, we mean our oceans, our communities, our sailors, who are customers, we call them sailors, our employees that we call crew, and our partners. And overall, we are looking at changing sailing for good by creating a positive change for both people and the planet, which is very much a part of our DNA. So last February 14th, we took delivery of our first ship, the beautiful Scarlet Lady that you see here. She made her way from Italy to the UK, and we were lucky enough to host 2 events in Dover and Liverpool in the UK with our travel partners that we call First Mates. After that, we were on our way to New York to essentially launch a brand new brand. Unfortunately, as you all know, that was at a time when COVID was really starting to become a big thing. And as we were crossing the Atlantic, we made the decision that it wasn't the right time, particularly in New York, to come with our ship, and we brought our ship to Miami. At that point, we were hoping to launch the brand in Miami, but unfortunately that week, which was exactly this week last year, we ended up having to cancel our launch and cancel our inaugural season, which is very sad for us, as you can imagine. So since COVID, we've been hard at work at creating a new wave of health measures so we can get our sailors back on the water. We call this program Voyage Well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that program a little bit later. So what are our plans now? Right now, we plan to launch our brand in 2021. Right now, our first sailings are scheduled for July. We will launch with the Scarlet Lady in Miami, and it'll be followed by 3 more ships in 2020 by 2024. So you can see it's a very quick ramp up. Our second ship is scheduled to debut, the Valiant Lady, in Miami of November of this year. And we just announced yesterday that our third ship, the Resilient Lady, will debut in Greece in next summer in 22. So in a landscape when most brands are building bigger ships, or when the luxury brands are building smaller ships, we're kind of unique because we are building a mid-sized ship. These ships are yacht inspired with boutique glamour of a lifestyle hotel. The product is adult by design, so we have no kids. You must be 18 to sail. And the atmosphere is like a relaxed luxe with no formal or stuffiness. You can dress up, you can dress down, you can eat whenever you like. We don't have scheduled dining times, and you can eat in world-class restaurants. You experience the Virgin style of service while being treated like a rock star. Now, our ships will sail starting out in the Caribbean and in Europe. If we go to the next slide, we'll see our map of the Caribbean. So we have 2 ships, both the Scarlet Lady and the Valiant Lady, that will be based in Miami, doing sailings between 4 and 8 nights. And every sailing will stop at the Beach Club at Bimini, which is a unique Virgin experience. Now, we don't see the ports of Nassau or Antigua on this list, but that doesn't mean that they're out of our sight. So we are working with both ports on the ground to develop Virgin experiences in those destinations so that we can hopefully have those as future ports in our portfolio. Moving to Europe, we also will have 2 ships sailing in Europe starting next summer, so very, very quickly. The first one, the Valiant Lady, will be based in the GPS port of Barcelona, and she will sail 3 different itineraries in the Med to Spain, Italy, and France. The second ship will come later in the season. The Resilient Lady will be based out of Piraeus, and she will have 2 different itineraries sailing to the Greek islands and also to the Adriatic. So once we actually take people to our destinations, this is something we also are going to do differently than what we've seen with other brands. So in the Virgin style, we don't call them shore excursions, we call them shore things. And our offerings will be in small groups, generally 10 to 20 people, offering experiences that are curated by locals specifically for Virgin Voyages sailors. So these aren't experiences you can just buy on the internet and replace. These are really going to be unique and again, part of our experience. Interestingly, this group is led both onshore and on board by women, and we seek out to work with women-owned businesses as partners. And in general, we are always looking to support local businesses and create those partnerships to get those authentic experiences for our guests. So setting sail the Virgin way means no nickel and diming, which is why we include all of our dining, which is elevated, as you'll see a little bit more. We include Wi-Fi. We believe that's a basic human right. We include some basic drinks, our workouts, and also gratuities everywhere. So whether it's your hotel gratuities or whether it's when you're buying a drink at the bar or at the spa, we always include that. We don't want you to feel like we're going to keep asking you for more. We also believe that you can't really completely enjoy a destination by arriving at 9 and leaving at 4. So the way that we design our itineraries, we focus on late stays and overnights. And that gives our sailors a chance to experience a destination like a local. So the combination of the time that we're there and the experiences that we're curating really gives you a different experience overall. We have a passion for food. We're not shy about it. We have 20 plus eateries on board. And we're highlighting here some of our most elevated experiences that we have. So we have everything from Korean barbecue to upscale Mexican to a vegan forward experience at Razzle Dazzle, where you can be naughty and add a little bit of meat on the side, or you can be all nice. And we also have our own take on a steak and seafood experience and also Italian experience. So a lot of variety. And again, these restaurants were created with chefs that have award-winning restaurants in major cities. And we are trying to create more of a metropolitan experience than you would normally see on a cruise line. Sustainability is really kind of part of our DNA and certainly part of the DNA of the Virgin Group. And we're aiming to not just reduce our impacts, but to make sure we are part of restoring ocean health. We are one of the first cruise lines to use a system called Climeon, which turns heat into clean electricity. And fuel, we know, is our biggest impact on the environment and contributes to climate change. So in the near term, we are purchasing offsets from renewable energy projects. And in the long term, we are committed to working with our industry to advance R&D for low and zero carbon fuel sources. We have also banned single-use plastics on our ship and reduced waste overall. And it's amazing. We went through an experience where we did an audit of everything, every place you might have single-use plastic on a ship, and have created really interesting solutions to replace those. I mentioned earlier our Voyage Well program, and obviously this is really important in the times of COVID. So we've been working diligently the past year to plan for the safe resumption of operations. And again, we call this Voyage Well. So we've been coordinating closely with the CDC, the cruise line industry, local health authorities, pandemic experts, and COVID-19 test kit manufacturers to ensure that when we sail, we can keep our crew, our sailors, and our community safe. Additionally, our ship experience was designed in a way that is conducive to adopting enhanced health and safety protocols. For example, we have smaller, intimate spaces rather than large spaces that cater to large volumes of crowds. And many of the choices we've made to create our sailor experience far before COVID, are more conducive to traveling with the new normal of COVID. So for example, we have 100% fresh air in our public areas, and more than 80% of our cabins have balconies. And we have a wearable, which you see a picture of here, and a sailor app that fosters a seamless digital experience. So think of things like, instead of having to get in line at Sailor Services, which is our guest services area, you can text or you can be in a virtual queue, and we'll tell you when it's your turn, and you don't need to be around a lot of other people. So this also provides contactless payments and just making physical distancing easy overall. So from the testing side, we're working with medical testing developers with an ambition to find a reliable, quick, and simple test. On the air treatment side, we're installing Atmos Air Solutions. It's an air purification system which disinfects airs and kills 99.9% of viruses. We will be limiting our sailor capacity probably to about 65% in the beginning to make sure that we've got the approach, we can do social distancing overall in all of our venues. Hand sanitizers have been a part of the cruise industry for a long time. We have added additional dispensers across the ship, and we keep adding more. Fresh food, and this is really important. We never had buffets as part of our product development. That was always kind of one of our brand pillars when it came to food. All of our food is freshly prepared to order and delivered by our crew, which also keeps us very, very safe. Our digital experience, I talked about our band, and I talked about our app. So again, we will use things like chats and no-touch payments in order to keep people safe. And of course, cleaning. We already had good cleaning protocols in place. They've been enhanced, and we'll be constantly cleaning. Plus, we will fog every cabin between sailings. And then moving on to our sailors. So who's booking Virgin Voyages? Who's interested? Well, the biggest thing that we hear is that people are really interested in our adult-only proposition. People love their kids, but especially after being at home with them a year in COVID, they want to be able to take a vacation without their kids and get away. The second thing we hear is the Virgin brand and the Virgin style of service, and that, you know, as a company, Virgin has always delivered, as I said, a little bit more, and people are looking forward to that. Also the value. So while we are an upscale brand, we include a lot, and we don't want to nickel and dime you, and people want that on their vacation. The atmosphere that we're creating, this relaxed luxe atmosphere, and a lot of the choice that we have on board, I haven't talked a lot about that today, but you'll just have to come on board and see, because there's a lot of exciting things that we're doing on the wellness side, on the entertainment side, and more. So moving to women, that's why we're here today, is to talk about women. And I'm going to talk more broadly than just women. I'm going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because again, this is part of the DNA at Virgin. We celebrate this through, we have creeds in our company, and one of our creeds is dive into different. And this creed just includes that we are ensuring that we are setting in place practices and policies where everyone has the opportunity to be their best self and realize their full potential. And we understand and believe in the business value of diversity, and we understand that it's also linked to higher profitability. We are really proud that 3 of our 8 top leaders are women. So we're not there yet. We're not at equality, but we're pretty close, and we know we have more work to do. But I'll add some areas where women have really added to the vision of this company. Dee Cooper is our head of design. Michelle Bentubo has led in technology and operations and people and culture, which is our HR area. I've been involved in pricing and itineraries and shore experiences, and our head of sustainability is also a woman. And we take these things very seriously. So we're committed to KPIs to improve and celebrating diversity in our foundation, and it's foundational to our culture. We have a team that actually focuses on engaging crew on diversity, equity, and inclusion, on issues like race, cultural awareness, and gender issues. And over the past 6 months, we've done this through monthly book clubs to engage our crew in difficult conversations around race and gender, and to elevate the awareness throughout the company through internal communications and marketing. And we've had people tell personal stories about what it's like in their careers, in their personal lives, to face some of these challenges overall. So beyond just where we are today, one of the things, and this program was started about 2 years, maybe 2+ years ago, and it's called the Scarlet Squad. So again, we were already thinking about the gender gap in the cruise industry and how important that is, and how that we can have an impact on making it better. So what this is a program that focuses on balancing the gender gap in leadership positions and in crew roles and placement. And this is both shipboard and shore side. But I think we could all agree that the biggest place in the cruise industry where we see this gap is in marine and technical leadership positions on board the ship. So we're very focused on that. And the program includes recruiting, supporting and mentoring female talent, and really kind of finding people and growing people into these positions, and making sure that everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. So as part of that, we also have created a program for our future leaders, and this is our Cadet Program. So we're not only looking to find people that are already in the industry, but we want to develop future leaders, and we want to develop men and women as future leaders. So we have partnered with Chiltern Maritime and to do on-the-job training. But as part of our focus on women and gender equality, you will see here that these are our first 5 cadets, and that 3 of those 5 cadets are female. And we believe that this type of equality is what will make our company very successful going forward. So I thank you for the time, for sharing a little bit about Virgin Voyages and our commitment to women.
Thank you so much, Senior Vice President Garcia. And if you are on this call and you had some enlightening moments, can you type some 7s in the chat? Because we want this call to be very interactive, not boring at all. And trust me, that presentation was very enlightening, especially that Scarlet Squad. We're empowering the women to become front runners in the cruise industry, and we applaud Virgin Cruises for that initiative. So thank you once again, Mrs. Diana Block Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you.
You will now be moving on to our panel presentation. And we have a very esteemed panel this morning that will be answering a few questions and enlightening us as to their roles in the cruise tourism industry. Now, I would definitely like to introduce Mr. Mike Mora. Of course, he spoke to us initially. Mr. Mike Mora, who is the GPH Regional Director for the Caribbean. He is the CEO at the Nassau Cruise Port. And Mr. Mora was already edified by Maya this morning. So we'll move right along to Mrs. Donna Regis Prosper, who is the General Manager at the Antigua Cruise Ports. So a little bit about Mrs. Regis Prosper. Donna is a cruise port professional with over 19 years of cruise port management experience. She has worked in a leadership capacity in business development, marketing, public relations, research, shopping center management, retail, real estate development, and food and beverage management. She is recognized regionally for her commitment to the development of tourism in the Caribbean, having worked in cruise port management in St. Lucia, the British Virgin Islands, Jamaica, and now Antigua and Barbuda. She is a certified professional marketer. She also has a BBA from Andrews University, Michigan, USA, an MBA from Durham University, UK, where she focused on the sustainable development of the cruise tourism industry in the Caribbean. Let's see some sevens in the chat for Mrs. Donna Regis Prosper, General Manager, Antigua Cruise Ports Limited. We'll now move on to Mrs. Patrice Simon, who's the Executive Director at Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourist Association. Mrs. Simon has been working in the field of marketing for the past 18 years. She is a graduate of the Baruch College, Zeppelin School of Business, attaining her degree in advertising and marketing communications. Patrice worked for several years in the fashion industry in New York, a lady after my own heart, as a marketing and finance assistant, and as an internet marketing manager in the gaming sector. Patrice's journey in hospitality began in 2006 as a marketing executive with Jolly Beach Resort and Spa. She worked in the industry for 7 years, with her last role being Director of Marketing Global. In 2013, she joined the team at Digicel Antigua and worked for 5 years, holding the positions of marketing manager, commercial director, and regional marketing manager of the Northeast Caribbean. So let's see some sevens for Mrs. Patrice Simon, Executive Director of the Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association. We move right along to our next panelist, Mrs. Joy Jibril, Director General for the Ministry of Tourism in the Bahamas. Mrs. Joy Jibril was appointed Director General of the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism in May 2014. Prior to this, she served as the Director of Investments in the Bahamas Investment Authority, the Office of the Prime Minister, from July 2008. In this capacity, she was responsible for negotiating heads of agreements for the major touristic developments, including the $3 billion Bahama Resort. Her career with the government of the Bahamas began in 2005, where she worked in the former Ministry of Financial Services and Investments as a consultant, followed by the Ministry of Finance, where she worked as a legal advisor, and for which her prime responsibility was working on international agreements pertaining to financial services. Prior to joining the public service of the Bahamas, Mrs. Jibril lived and worked in West Africa and England. She received her early education in the United Kingdom and has attended tertiary institutions in Canada, France, England, and the United States. She is a barrister, attorney at law by profession, but is passionate about her country and its growth, and Development. So let's see some sevens in the chat for Mrs. Joy Jibril, Director General of the Ministry of Tourism in the Bahamas. And now we move on to the lone, well, not the lone, but our other gentleman on the panel. And he is esteemed as well, Mr. Marquez Williams, Operations Manager at Nassau Cruise Port. So Mr. Williams is a Bahamian maritime expert that began his career as a Marine in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. He has worked for both the Bahamian National Maritime Regulating Regimes, the Bahamas Marine Authority and the Bahamas Port Authority. He graduated from the renowned SUNY Maritime College with a BSc in International Maritime Trade and Transportation and a minor in Intermodal and Maritime Security. Currently, he's the Operations Manager for the Nassau Cruise Port. So let's see some sevens as well for Mr. Marquez Williams. Thank you all for joining us this morning and forming a part of this very esteemed panel. So let's begin. Perhaps we can begin with a little sharing, some of the women on the panel, first and foremost. And I'll throw this out. Why are you here in this role? Who gave you the opportunities? And what are some of the challenges that you've experienced, if any? So I'll start with Donna.
Good morning, Samoya, and good morning to my fellow esteemed panelists, and good morning to everyone who's joined us on this panel. Thank you, Samoya, for this question. I started 21 years ago in this industry, and I started as a shopping center and cruise terminal manager. And at the time, the title was not even called manager, it was called manageress. But I got an opportunity to learn various aspects of the business. The facility was owned by the Port Authority in St. Lucia. So I was exposed to the port operation, safety, security, even the marine aspect I was exposed to. And from that, I was able to springboard, travel the Caribbean, held several positions within the port industry in the Caribbean. And now I'm very happy and pleased to work for a company that embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am one of 3 other port managers globally. Croatia, for instance, has its only female port manager in the entire Croatia. And we have another female port manager in Spain as well, in Malaga, Spain. So I'm very happy to be part of this industry, and an industry that has the perfect platform to encourage this diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you so much, Donna. Mrs. Jibril, what about you? You are Director General of the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism. Tell us about your experiences in that role in the Bahamas.
Good morning to you, Samaya, and again, this esteemed panel. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and obviously as we celebrate International Women's Day, this is even particularly more meaningful. As I look at my journey and what brought me to this current position as Director General of the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, I feel that there was a sense of preparedness, because this was not something that I truly saw for myself. But I look at my journey along the way, and that is from education. And I talk about preparedness because education has opened so many doors, and being willing almost to take any job that was offered to me. And I've been offered some jobs that I asked, really, me? One of which was being legal advisor to the Ministry of Finance, dealing with tax information exchange agreement. And I was like, why? What in life prepared me for this? But every single point of the way I've seen as a stepping stone and a building block. One of those blocks to get me to where I am. So tourism is key to the Bahamas. It underpins our economy. And to be invited 7 years ago to hold this position, it was humbling. It was really intimidating. And as I said, just being prepared, everything along the way. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. It has not been all easy sailing, as all of us can attest to here. But I think what we as women do, and I think everyone will agree with it, we work hard, we show that we are deserving of the role, and we step up to the plate. And honored, honored, honored every day to serve my country and even the Caribbean, because I've been privileged to work in the wider community in this position.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Jibril. And Mrs. Simon, Executive Director, Antigua Barbuda Hotels and Tourist Association. Tell me, did you encounter a lot of bias against women along your journey to becoming Executive Director?
I think inherently, and good morning again to everyone. I think inherently bias exists, conscious or unconscious. It exists in all aspects of life. So definitely there are various biases that you'd see over time. It's just a matter of your response to that bias, and also to how the organization prepares their individuals to address bias in the workplace. So the organization has a role to train, it has a role to make sure persons are educated in how to manage that level of bias.
Amazing, thank you so much. And Diana, tell me, were you treated as equally as your male counterparts in your organization?
It's an interesting question because it's something I don't think I ever really thought about for many, many years. I mean, I was kind of brought up that you can do whatever you want to do and you just have to prove yourself to do it. So it's interesting because I think through most of my career, it was kind of a non-issue, but I would say that as I began to elevate to the officer level of organizations, I started to see it a little bit more where while I always had great advocates, usually my boss, whether it was male or female, I did find that as a woman, you sometimes had to ask for things a little bit more that might not have come as naturally to you. So I think, again, only in the more recent years, I'd say the last 10 years, do I think I even was aware of it. But I think that becomes true as you move up in organizations.
Thank you so much, Diana. So don't forget, we have 2 males on the panel and we're by no means, we're excluding you guys. So stay tuned, we're coming to you guys right now, but it's all about the woman. From your point of view, Diana, I'll stick to you for the moment. Are women making advances in the cruise tourism sector? If so, in what areas?
I mean, absolutely. When I entered this industry over 20 years ago, today there are 5 female CEOs and presidents of major cruise lines, and there's more in the river space as well. That was not the case 20 years ago. So I think definitely at the very top, we're seeing a big difference. But I would even see really throughout all levels in the organization, you're seeing a lot more. You're seeing a lot more impact that's coming from women. Because at all levels. And I think it's becoming the gender issue is real. And it's something that we need to focus on until we're really 50-50. But I do see that it's improved. I mean, we see more female leaders in director positions. We see more female leaders in destinations like the women that we have here. And we see more female captains, which we never would have seen 20 years ago, and hotel directors on board the ship. So I think we're making progress, but we know we're not there yet.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Diana. But I have to pass that question on to Donna as well, because GPH is fairly new in Antigua and Barbuda. When we were waiting for the grand announcement of who the general manager would be, I think even in our own little biased minds, we thought, okay, let's see who this gentleman is now. And then we heard it's a female. So I was like, yeah, woman power. So Donna, tell me from your point of view, or, you know, you've made this mark already. Are women making advances in this industry? Tell me from your perspective.
Absolutely, we are. And I'll just give a very brief story of my own experience. Like I said, I entered this industry 21 years ago. And I entered when I was very young. And I wanted to know everything about this industry. And one of the areas that was very intriguing to me was marine piloting, bringing in that ship and what the marine pilots would do. So I asked the then chief pilot whether I could go out and experience it, not become a pilot, but just to experience it. And his answer was, I don't think that is for a woman. You would not be able to climb the Jacob's ladder. And I said, the Jacob's ladder? And then he explained to me that the Jacob's ladder was this ladder that you come from the pilot boat onto the cruise ship and get onto the bridge and bring the ship in. And I said, why do you think so? He said, it's not for a woman. I wouldn't want my daughter to climb that Jacob's ladder. So I don't want you to climb that Jacob's ladder. So that was my first introduction to, okay, know your place. But this gentleman, he never said it in a very, in a way that he was, belittling a woman. He honestly thought that we were too fragile to do certain things. So this is one of the things I believe that many years later, 21 years later, women are not only climbing that Jacob's ladder, they're bringing in that vessel. They're captains, they're CEOs, they're presidents. And on the land side, like myself, my company has given me the opportunity to become a general manager, running several aspects of the cruise of managing a port. And not only are there those aspects, Samoya, but they're also the business women at Heritage Key, which is the facility adjacent to the cruise pier. For over 40% of the business owners there are women, and they're not only thriving, they're not only surviving, they're thriving. They're doing their thing. They're showing up every day. And as someone says, they're taking up space and making their mark in this industry. So definitely 100%, we have made a lot of strides in this industry, and I'm so proud to be part of it.
Awesome, awesome. Let's see some sevens coming up in the chat, because I'll tell you this much, Donna is not lying. Donna will put a tent up with her two hands. She's not afraid to get down and dirty with the gentleman on her team. So Donna is right out there doing the work that's needed to get crews up and running. Let's move over to Mrs. Jibril. Mrs. Jibril, from your perspective, do you think that women are perceived favorably across all areas of the industry? All areas, not just cruise, but we're looking at, let's say, the hotel sector, even in aviation. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Another great question, Samaya. And I'm glad that you broadened it to the tourism sector and did not just limit it. I just want to give a little statistic. I think it's important and it puts it in perspective from a tourism standpoint. So the majority of the tourism workforce worldwide are women. 54% of people employed in tourism are women, and that's compared to 39% in the broader economy. So the wage gap is also smaller in the tourism industry. And so while the wage gap is estimated at approximately 23% globally, women in tourism earn 14.7% less than men. And that's those figures come from a global report on women in tourism put out by the UNWTO. So why do I say that? When we see strides in tourism and the place that women hold, to answer your question, yes, of course, I do think women are perceived favorably is a word I would not use, but we are seen as belonging at the table. Yes. People recognize that we bring the skill set, the talent, everything that it takes to drive an organization. And when people recognize that, it does change the narrative. It does change the perspective of gender, but rather this person is capable of doing their job. I mean, for Donna and for Diana to quote what they quoted of what we're seeing in the cruise industry, that would not happen if people did not perceive us as being capable of holding those jobs. So tourism is a great place for women to lead the way, to shine a spotlight, to show that we belong. And so a lesson to the broader workforce.
Definitely, definitely. Patrice, tell me, are there still areas within the industry that are perceived as not for women? Any barriers to entry for women in certain aspects of the industry?
Thank you so much, Samoya. Actually, when we started talking about the webinar, I didn't look at the stats before. And then when I started to count off the members of our association, so we have 40 major hotels that are part of the Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association. 22 of those are either managed or owned by women. And I didn't think or to look at that stat before. When I saw that, I'm like, you know, there's a quiet revolution, you know, maybe 20 years ago, you know, those numbers weren't the same as Diana said, but I think there's a quiet revolution going on. And there's an understanding too, again, just as Joy mentioned, of what women really bring to the workforce. So yes, maybe we would have had challenges over the years. We know that women traditionally held general roles across the industry, but to see that top level roles coming through, and it's just really only the start of it. It's really encouraging, certainly for myself being back in the industry, and for other young girls as well, looking at the industry and wanting to aspire to those top executive levels as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrice. So I'm going to really jump, hop, and skip on over to Mike, because as I said, I don't want my gentlemen to feel excluded. This is total gender equality. So Mike.
There's only two of us.
Who's on the other foot now?
No. So, well, between yourself and Marquez, you gentlemen, tell us, what skills or characteristics do you believe women bring to the workplace from your perspective?
That's an interesting question. And if I could, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to back up a little bit because I found some of your questions to the ladies to be very interesting in terms of opportunity and so forth. And as I thought about it and reflect on it from where I sit, there is a corporate responsibility to ensure that the leaders of organizations sincerely live the culture and the values that you all have articulated. And what I mean by that is that it's hard for me to, apart from saying, you know, I think women are better multitaskers, I think women their attention to detail is better. I'm hesitant to go far past that because I don't see women as being any less capable than men. So to define women differently, I think is a slippery slope and not in all cases fair to women. I think that you as a leader, whether you're a female or a male leader, you have an obligation to empower, to provide opportunity, to give responsibility. And you need, as a company, you need to ensure that the people you're hiring, whoever hired me needed to make sure that I sincerely believed those values so that I didn't become, you know, the part of the clog in the wheel, or I don't become part of the problem. You need to make sure that the leadership within organizations, whatever that organization is, however, what size it is, has people that live and believe, and you can just look at them and tell that that person believes in equal opportunity for all. And so, you know, if you look at our company, and it wasn't by design, it was by providing opportunity, and may the best person stand up and say, hey, please consider me. But in our company, women are very dominant in the roles they play. And in my management level, with the people that I work with, I can tell you the women that are managers do their job better than I can. And that's why they have the job. So I hope I answered your question.
Definitely. You couldn't have responded much better than that, because our next question, I would love Marquez to jump in on this. How can we harness the power of women in the workplace? How do you think we can harness the power of women in the workplace?
I think we can harness the power of women in the workplace through opportunities. And it all stems from education and awareness and representation and those kind of things. I grew up, although I had strong male figures in my life, I had many strong female figures in my life. And so I never saw, or I never thought that women couldn't do something a man could do. I did not, that idea of that men had to do things never really existed as I grew up. I observed women doing these things. And so when I'm put in a place or a position where I have to ask assistance from a female or especially in this work environment, I don't think, oh, is she able to do this, or can she do this? I'm thinking, oh no, I know she has this. This lady, I've seen her do this work. I know she has the capability. I know she has this. I don't question it. And that trickles down to the rest of the environment, because if I am speaking and finding extreme confidence in a female counterpart or somebody I'm interacting, others who see me are going to be, oh, I respect him, so, and he respects her, so that also transcends to them. So it creates that atmosphere where people realize that there's no difference. If you're capable, you're capable. And that helps, that carries the conversation, that carries the idea of representation, that carries this whole idea that women are essential to our growth. They're the majority of our society. They're essential to our society. Without them representation in a company, the company is one-sided. It is not a holistic company. It doesn't show what the world and the society reflects. So that's how I feel about it.
Totally understood, Marquez, totally understood. And the major point that sticks out from your elucidation was opportunity. And opportunity brings the Scarlet Squad back to my mind, because in Diana's presentation, she spoke about this platform that presents the opportunity for women to be placed in different roles in the cruise industry. Diana, can you expound on this for us?
Sure. And I think what it goes back to is that the goal has to be intentional. And that's really important. So Scarlet Squad is made up of 6 focus areas. The first one is recruitment. That seems probably the most obvious. And our goal is to achieve 50-50 male, female, both ship and shore. The second is competitive policies to attract women. So how do you retain women at the same rate that you retain men? And there are obviously certain things like maternity and family issues that you need to address in order to make that really possible for women to stay in these roles and continue to grow. The third thing is mentoring, is really learning from leaders one-to-one. And whether that's a male mentoring a female or female male or female female, really doesn't matter. But it's really, it's investing in people over time. That's really important. Another one that you wouldn't think of, but this is really particular to our shipboard folks, is social and yard support. And by that, we mean that the shipyard and the ship itself is traditionally a very male environment. So how do you strengthen that integration in the community on board where it's comfortable for women? And you really you promote that overall, again, both with the men and the women in the population. The fifth one is kind of membership, sponsorship, and philanthropy. So support organizations, whether it's in the destinations, whether it's vendors you work with, whether it's in your community, that support the organizations that promote women. So kind of put your money where your mouth is in a way. And then finally, our cadet program, which is launch training programs where you make sure that you ensure that women are represented in those programs.
Amazing, amazing initiative, Dan. And I must congratulate yourself and your group, Virgin Cruises, on these great initiatives to support the advancement of women in the industry. I definitely have to ask the gentlemen, Mike and Marquez, in your opinion, do you think that men, and I think that from your prior responses, do men support the advancement of women into various aspects of the industry? From your prior answers to the questions, we know where this is going, but can you tell us what you think men can do to improve the perception that men in our industry don't really value the female counterparts?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say that I have witnessed examples in the past, situations in the past, and I hate to bring age into it, but where I have been dealing with what I'll describe as more elderly men that have I don't know. I can't pretend to know what, would have caused them to kind of evolve the way they did, but the way in which they would interact with women of authority was a problem, in that I don't know whether it was some kind of insecurity. I don't know, but they, women who had worked very, very hard, who had attained a senior level of authority, just trying to do their job, would run into a blockhead every once in a while, an older male who, no, this woman ain't going to tell me what to do, kind of thing. And we as leaders would have to step in and fix it, and clarify what expectations are and the kind of people that we want working for our company. And this is my past life, pre-global. I think that I still think that there are areas, I will tell you, within the Bahamas that we need to recognize as opportunities. I wouldn't call them failures, but I would call them opportunities. For example, with tourism, we look at our family islands, we look at the tourism product in terms of excursions, and a lot of our excursions in the Bahamas are marine based. Okay, so it's putting people in boats and those types of things and letting them go experience the water and the sea life and the rest of it. Well, the family islands they haven't had the infrastructure, the benefit of infrastructure. They haven't had the benefit of as much education, as much opportunity, captain's license training, and those types of things that historically it's been the male that's been the one behind the wheel of the boat. And so if you're looking to create opportunity for women in an expansion of tourism, business opportunities in the family islands and the Bahamas, I think through education, both in school, so that the young women see the potential of being able to be their own captain of their own vessel, of their own, 5 boats, and to kind of break, that old way, that paradigm of, well, you can handle the landside stuff and, let the sons handle the water stuff, So I think that there are real potential and opportunities for women still in terms of tourism in some sectors. I think in Nassau, as Mrs. Jibril had indicated and others have commented, on the land side, I think women are, they're all in their big D8 tractor, and if you're not willing to step aside, they're going to run over you, and because they know they can do it as well as you can. So that's my comment there.
Marquez, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. Empathy, understanding, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. That's something that I've tried to do a lot in my life. I focus heavily on that because I like to understand where the person is coming from. So yeah, I've been working with women pretty much all my life. So I like to understand where they're coming from. I understand there's going to be differences. And from time to time, I don't understand where they're coming from. But I like to hear. Because it makes a better decision. The reason why, when you hear another perspective, like a woman's perspective, typically is going to be extremely different, or where their concept is coming from is going to be different than what I'm thinking, because I have my life experience. I grew up as a male. I have certain things in society that have made me to think in a certain way. And so when you hear a woman's perspective, it gives you, it makes you stop and think, oh, I didn't see it that way. And so you as an organization make better decisions. So I try to, people that work with me always hear me say, make it make sense. I like to hear somebody else's, I like to hear specifically a women's perspective, because one of my assistant, Jade, is we go back and forth with every decision because I want to know what she's thinking and how she sees it. It makes our decisions so much better. And if one thing that any male working with females should do, I try to put yourself in their shoes for 1 minute, just to kind of I know it's going to be extremely difficult, but just to try to see where they're coming from. Try to conceptualize what makes their decisions or their reasoning the way it is. And it helps you form a better connection, better relationship, better decision making. It helps. And so then the next person, the next female that you see, you'll give opportunities so much quicker because you already know I've kind of understood where you're coming from. That's how I approach it.
Thank you so much, Marquez. And you've just highlighted the need to understand the woman's reason why and be empathetic towards, the reasoning behind the decisions that women make. But not to end our session too abruptly, but because we're moving on to our major presentation, I want to get some feedback into the wrap-up question. And I would love the female counterparts on the call, on the panel, to just throw in their bits and pieces on this final question. Well, first of all, we need to speak about the salaries. Is there a difference in salaries for the female executives versus the male? Do you see a salary discrepancy based on gender in the cruise industry? Anybody could jump in on this one. Mrs. Jibril?
So I'd like to speak from a Bahamas perspective, and I'd like to speak certainly from a general tourism perspective. We've made great strides, and I think everyone has acknowledged that. But there is still a long way to go. And I don't want us to leave this call thinking that we've arrived. I mean, when you look at women in leadership in tourism, notwithstanding the statistics I gave, if I look just regionally, there are only 8 ministers of tourism out of 24 countries. So that's approximately 1/3. And yet it is such a female-dominated industry. And so I want us to know that there is still work to do. We're going in the right direction, but let's not lose focus and think that we've arrived. And is there a pay disparity? Certainly in the Bahamas, there is. And at an executive level, and it's amazing how it can be rationalized and how people still try to rationalize it. So Mike said something at the beginning in his welcome remarks. I wrote it down. So workplace that resembles our community best serves our community, but that has to be all encompassing so that the pay in the Caribbean and the Bahamas specifically, women are the ones in many instances looking after the families. They're the ones that are looking after the extended family as well, and pay is important. And when you're still having to negotiate for equality of pay, and a lot of that is down to us as women. We just don't know how to ask for what we know we are worth. And so we've also got to do a better job. And as women, I think that's something that we've got to mentor the next generation. How do we get them to be very clear, very focused in asking for what they know they deserve? So it has nothing to do with gender, but it has to do with our worth. Mike.
Thank you so much. And we can move it on over to Donna, and then Patrice and Diana will jump in their wrap-up comments.
Oh, certainly 100% agree with Joy. I mean, we as women, we tend to undervalue ourselves. As in our effort to get our foot in the door, sometimes we compromise what we believe our value is. So certainly, Joy, you're definitely on point with that. Another thing that happened to us as women is that we get lost in taking care of everybody else around us, and we neglect ourselves. And there is a saying, a tired mind and a tired body brings tired ideas. So we have to take care of ourselves. And then we have to be able to show up and take advantage of the opportunities that a lot of persons, male, female, are ready to give us once they see that we could add value. I'll tell you something, working with Mike as my boss, I never think about gender, not once. I think about, okay, what do I need to do to get the job done? So when I'm discussing with Mike, I'm the general manager for Antigua Cruise Ports, you're my boss, and this is what we're doing to get the job done.
Amazing, Donna. Thank you so much. Over to you, Patrice. Can you tell us your wrap-up comments on women in the industry and what opportunities do you think will be opening up for ladies in the future?
Well, definitely talking about women in the industry and capitalizing on Joy and Donna's comments so far is that we have to focus on women in leadership. We have to mentor and we have to promote. We talk about the stats. We say, you know, women are doing great. Yes, we still have a lot of work to do, but we're not showcasing that work. We're not ensuring that, you know, the persons who are listening to us when we go out to the schools, wherever we are, that persons completely understand that there's a role at top levels for young girls and for women in the tourism sector. So yes, I think the past year with the COVID-19 pandemic has allowed a lot of people, not just women, a lot of persons to really stretch outside of their comfort zone, right? And we might not have thought that there are opportunities that exist beyond this bubble that we exist in, because sometimes we're just so consumed into the here and now. We have a job we're in for so many years and we never stretch ourselves beyond that limit. Last year has taught us, and even now we're still living it, that we have to stretch out. We have to take chances. A few years ago, I was a part of a seminar that stated that men will take a risk without being 100% prepared for that risk. Us women, we have to think, okay, I got to get to that 100% before I know that I'm. And we need to shake that. We need to shake that because we can learn in a role. For me personally, I would not have taken the role that I have now if I'm adding up the 100%, right? And we have to really go out there, do what we have to do. And the men are our allies, right, Marquez, Mike? You're our allies in this.
That's right.
You are our mentors in this process, and you're also our promoters. You know, I know for Donna, for Joy, for Diana, we want to know when we leave the room that Marquez and Mike will promote us and know that, you know what, Patrice can do that. You know, I know that Donna can do that job. Donna doesn't see gender when she's talking to Mike, and it's the same thing. So we have to get the allies on board with us. We have to start promoting each other and making sure that those coming after us are aware that they can go to the top level.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Patrice, for that. And we move over to Diana to give us her wrap-up thoughts on women in the industry.
So the good news is, and I'm proud to work for a company that is really focused on gender equality. So I would say very confidently that we don't have a pay gap from a gender equality at Virgin Voyages. But the reality is it's still out there in the industry and it's still out there in business in general. The three most recent people that I hired happened to be women, not because they were women, but because they were the best person for the job. And we paid them what they deserve to be paid to do that job, for sure. But what we do see in a lot of our recruiting is that maybe we don't have as many women candidates, or maybe those candidates aren't commanding, as big salaries as other people are. So it's out there. And I think that you need more organizations to take the approach that we are hiring the best person. And that's regardless of what their gender is, what their race is, and they should be paid fairly for the work that they do.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you so much. And our panel, if you took any value at all from our panelists today, I need you to type some 7s in the chat because I know I did. So you definitely did as well. Type some 7s in the chat for me, please. I'd like to say a resounding thank you to each and every one of you, Donna, Joy, Patrice, Diana, Mike, and Marquez. You guys were amazing. Thank you so much. We now have to move on over to our masterclass session. Our masterclass session today will be presented by Claudine Paul, CEO and founder of Lemonade Inc. And I'll tell you a bit about Claudine. Claudine is well known in the cruise industry as an international facilitator and speaker. She has led training and speaking engagements for over 10,000 individuals in over 50 countries in English and Spanish. Claudine was named Top 40 Young Talents Under 40 by Sea Trade Cruise Global and became a finalist for the Talent Development Knowledge and Ability to Connect with Industry Players. Claudine is the founder of Lemonade, a firm that focuses on empowering teams by connecting leadership skills, building confidence, and adding strategic value in the customer experience. Claudine is a strong supporter of women in leadership and is a mentor to several organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please type some sevens in the chat. That's our lucky number. Type some sevens in the chat and welcome Masterclass by Claudine.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much, Samoya. It's an honor to be here and to speak with you. Thank you so much specifically to Donna for this opportunity. I've been working with Donna and her team at Global Port Holdings in Antigua for the past several months. I want to ask you, when a child is born and you look at a birth certificate, should the mother's name be on it? I think all of you would agree and say yes. But if you look up the United Nations top defining moments for women 2020, this has just become a right in Afghanistan. To have the mother's name on the birth certificate has just become a right. So when we talk about leadership and we talk about equality, we look at different parts of the world and we know that different parts are not as on par as what we may see in our destinations. I'm going to be sharing my story with you today, but I want you to keep in mind that what one person experiences is not the same as other experiences that someone else might have. And these experiences are the things that shape us and make us who we are. I'm going to start with one of my favorite quotes. It's by Oprah, and it says, "Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness." My name's Claudine. I was born in El Salvador, Central America, a small third world country. In growing up, I never thought, El Salvador is a third world country or anything like that. I thought life was awesome. Little did I know, I wasn't even 1 year old. And guess what? My father had lost his life. My father was a politician, very high in politics. He was assassinated during the Civil War in 1984. My mother, she was in politics as well as the health minister. When I was 5 years old, there was a bomb placed in my mom's car. My mom was at work. She went down the stairs and forgot her keys. She went back upstairs, and when she came back down, she noticed that her car had exploded. That very next day, my mom had to leave the country. She went to the United States, went from being the health minister to cleaning tables and to taking care of elderly people, all to give me a better future. This is leadership. Growing up, I went to a private school. I went to a British school where I learned English. Little did I know that, kids starting to notice that, Claudine, or as they called me there, Martha, you are different. You do not have a mother or a father. I was different. I was raised by my grandparents, which for me was the most amazing experience to learn from them. My life was really good. And at the age of 9, my mom had everything in place to immigrate to Canada, where I live now. Moving to Canada was a stretch, going from hot and sunny destination to coming to a country where it was winter at the time. It was November 1991. I first saw snow. What a change, what a difference. But I quickly fell in love with the people and created lots of great friends. Leadership started for me from a young age because I knew that I had to stand out, that in moments of darkness and being different, I had to be the joy for others. And this is where leadership all started. Grade 5. Remember in grade 5, I was asked to give a speech in front of the entire school about El Salvador. and what it meant to move to Canada and what that whole experience was like. This moment was my first moment that I said, Claudine, you're a leader. And it stayed with me. I have a voice. When I say I have a voice, I want you to know that you also have a voice. And what you have to share is so important. Growing up, I really knew that I wanted to lead people and to make people believe in themselves. I knew that it was inside of me and that I had that voice and I could attract people and make people great. Make all those great things inside of people come out. So I got involved right away. I studied international business. I knew that I wanted to do something great. And I got involved in tourism, which was the craziest thing. 15 years ago, got involved in tourism by chance by my previous employer, started doing tours for the cruise guests who came to the destination in Spanish. That was the first approach. When I think of leadership, I think tour guides play a huge role in that, especially when they're visiting the destination. So I was doing that, and on the side I was working my job at the time. I was training manager for IBM. I had a team of 40 people, and it was a great time. Then after that, I got involved in another position. And this is where I said, wait a minute, there's a little bit of difference between females and males. Someone said to me, oh, maybe you should not apply for that position because you have 2 kids. You know what? You probably won't get it. The guy will probably get it because he doesn't have any kids. So this was an awakening to me. And I thought, why would I not get the job, right? In life, women will not apply for a job unless they meet 100% of the criteria that they see listed, compared to men who will look at the criteria and say, oh, I meet about 50% of it. I'm going to apply. That's a difference. I think as females, we need to be more fearless and take risks. I think Joy mentioned that. Take risks, go for things, and ask for the opportunity. In 2020, I was at a crossroads, having previously worked with my employer for the past 5 years, helping the company grow from working in 8 destinations to 73 destinations in 4.5 years. And I came to a point where I had no job, early 2020. And I thought to myself, what do I do now? What do I do now? I had to step back and said, what do you love? I love the cruise industry. I love developing people. And I love leadership. I have a passion for leadership. That time, May 2020, during a pandemic, I started my own company, Lemonade. Was it scary? Most definitely. Probably one of the scariest things I have done, start my own company, because you never know. Will it work? Who knows, right? Be fearless. Take that step forward and surround yourself with amazing people who are going to support you. And that's exactly what I did. My company focuses on leadership and training of the development of the people in the destinations. My great friend says, great leadership is like the weather. If it's sunny, the leadership is great. It's sunny, everything is good. The leadership sets the tone for the day and for the time being. One thing that I said to myself in starting my own company, you need to give back. And when I said you need to give back, that means you need to give back in a bigger way. So with what I'm doing, anytime I travel to a destination, once we start traveling, I will be giving back to the destination an extra day in the destination to work with the leadership capacity of the females. Because in the past 5 years of traveling across the Caribbean and Central America, there's one thing that I have found, is that the leadership capacity in females is very low. The leadership capacity needs to increase. I'm going to share one story. I was in one destination and a young female came up to me and she said, Claudine, I want to be a tour guide at this place, but right now I'm just the cleaning lady, but I know everything about this. When someone comes in, I know everything about it, but I'm just the cleaning person. I looked at her and I said, do you really want to do this? She said, yes, that's all I want. I said, ask for it. Go for it. Let's go. I'll go with you. Ask for the opportunity. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. The next year I went back again and the girl comes up to me. She says, Claudine, you won't believe it. I am now the lead tour guide at this location. That is the push. That is the belief. That is what we as people need to do for each other. Really help each other grow to a next level. And when I think of leadership, I think of our younger generation. I think of our children. I have 2 girls, Claudia and Claire, and I think of them. What kind of opportunities are they going to have? How are they going to see the world? Will they be able to do whatever they want to do? I ask you, what do we want? What do you want for your children? If we look at gender inequality, it's not fair everywhere, and we know that. I've worked in some destinations where women are not permitted to do certain things, only the men are. But I think that having these platforms and talking about it openly will help us get up higher. The cruise industry is not equal. There's more males in higher position jobs in governments. I think Joy mentioned as well that I think she mentioned that there's only 8 ministers and compared to 23 in a certain area. There's positions that could be filled for women, but sometimes as women we're afraid to go for those positions. Like I said before, take the risk. Do not be afraid to jump, because when we jump, we don't know how high we can actually go. And I'm telling you this from experience, from starting my own company earlier in May of 2020 to now having worked with 15 different destinations on my own, all about leadership, public speaking, and enhancing the customer experience. As women, let's be fearless. Let's not be afraid to put ourselves out there and say, hey, I'm here. I'm Claudine. Can I have an opportunity? Let's keep asking for opportunities. When we ask, we might get a yes, we might get a no, but you know what? If we don't try, we will never, ever know. So happy International Women's Day. And I'm going to finish with this. There's a girl here in the audience. Her name's Rebecca Pevick. She put on her status on LinkedIn, Happy International Women's Day. I choose to challenge. As the only female cruise port general manager in Croatia, I hope to see more women in leading roles in cruise and maritime sector in Croatia and worldwide, and to inspire the change. I leave you with that. She is a leader, and I commend you, Rebecca. Wonderful post. Thank you for your time, and let us continue to be the change we want to see in this world. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Claudine, for that very inspiring masterclass. I think we all are ready to be bold and be fearless after listening to your message. So we really appreciate you taking the time to share your message with us and to tell us your amazing story. I'm sure that you've inspired many people on this webinar today, so thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our event. So I hope, as promised, you all felt that it was exciting, informative, and insightful. I wish to thank Claudine again, our panelists, Joy Jibril, Mike Mora, Donna Regis Prosper, Patrice Simon, Marquez Williams, of course, Diana Block Garcia from Virgin Voyages for taking the time to tell us all about what is happening with Virgin Voyages today. We're very excited about the adventures of your brand, and we look forward, I'm sure, to all sailing with you. I'd also like to, on behalf of Nassau Cruise Port Limited, Antigua Cruise Port Limited, Global Ports Holding, and our entire team, thank all of you for joining us today. It is so important for us to continue to have these conversations. Like Claudine said, to continue to choose, challenge the stereotypes, bias against women, and also to promote equality for everyone, and equal opportunity from everyone, whether you consider yourself male, female, or whatever you subscribe to. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to be the best that they can be. I'd also personally like to thank our leadership team, Mike Mora Jr. and Donna and Antigua, for giving us the opportunity to host this event today. And wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, it's always a good time to be bold and fearless. So happy International Women's Day. And we hope to see you again on a similar event soon. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. You can follow Nassau Cruise Port, Antigua Cruise Port, and Global Ports Holding to stay tuned to what's happening with us, what's happening in the industry, and also to share and engage with us. It's not all about us, telling you what we're doing. We want feedback from our communities. We want to know what you're doing and how we can partner and work together toward a more equal future. So thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.